Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today we're doing a video taking a look at the newly reworked Yorick. His abilities have just been revealed and we're going to jump right into this video taking a look at his abilities, but more specifically we're going to be answering the question, can the new Yorick jungle? So where should we begin? We should begin by giving you guys a look at what this champion, what the new Yorick's abilities do. Now I'll put a link to this page in the description down below if you want to look at it yourself. But firstly, his passive is called Shepherd of Souls. Basically, this passive just means that you can summon ghosts. It enables Yorick to summon ghosts. But more specifically, what the passive itself does is when things die around Yorick, sometimes they will leave a grave on the ground. What do these graves do? I hear you ask. It's not the champion graves, the busted jungler. No, it's these actual little graves. If you take a look at the video here, you'll see the minion's about to leave. There we go. It's taken out and there's a grave on the floor. What does that grave do? Well, that ties in with your Q. What your Q does on your next auto attack, you do bonus damage. You heal yourself as well. However, if you have more than 3 graves on the ground, it says at least 3 graves here on the ground around you, then instead of using the ability, instead of using the ability to enhance your auto attack, what you'll do is you'll use those graves, you'll consume the graves to summon the ghosts. So that's kind of how your Q ties in with your passive. If you take a look at the video here, here is the extra damage auto attack. Bam, there it is. Goodbye, minion. And then the next part of the ability summons all the ghosts. And then there's all the ghosts attacking Mordekaiser. That's what your Q does. Your W, Dark Procession. This is somewhat similar to, how would I put this? Somewhat similar to like a Veigar cage, I guess, except instead of walking into the cage, you're just like, you can't walk out of it, basically, as you can see there. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. It's really easy, you know, simple. Thank God, a simple ability to explain here. Getting into his E here. His E, I thought it was kind of similar to like a Twitch W. You throw it out, but it's long and thin rather than circular. You throw it out, and then if it lands on someone, they're slowed, and then you and your ghosts all move faster going towards that target. Also, it does a bit of damage as well. I can't imagine it does too much, though. And your ultimate, this is the really interesting one. What your ultimate does is you summon it's called Eulogy of the Isles. You summon a Maiden of the Mist, and at higher ranks you also summon ghosts alongside it as well. And from what it looks like, this is just like a completely autonomous being. It doesn't take orders from anyone, it just does its own thing. And also when it attacks things and you attack it as well, you do loads of damage to that target. So it seems like basically I don't really know how to describe that. It's a very unique ability. You summon your own NPC, and then when you team up with that NPC, you destroy people. So that's basically the rundown of Yorick's abilities here. It seems kind of interesting, actually. There's a bit more of a breakdown on how Riot, just a breakdown of how they think he'll be playing the champion. He looks really cool. Like, look at that. Holy moly, this guy looks really awesome. But we're not going to take a look at that in this video. You guys can take, if you want to read on that, you can. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to break it down a little bit and just look at these abilities, and we're going to discuss whether or not I think that this Yorick on paper could be a good jungler, whether he could work as a jungler. I think just right off the top, he's not designed necessarily with jungling in mind. I think he's going to be designed more as a top laner, but can he jungle is the question. So, first thing we want to answer, the first question we need to answer if we're going to decide whether or not Yorick is going to be a good jungler is, well, what defines a good jungler? Specifically, in my opinion, the things that define a good jungler is how well they clear, if their clears are competitive, specifically how fast they clear, whether they're whether they can actually get through the jungle and not have to like sit for 10 hours just clearing stuff and then just, by design, just going to fall behind all the time. Sustain can be really useful as well. You don't want to be left on like 10% health all the time, so you can't influence the map, although in the extreme cases, speed is actually very influential on your sustain, because if you're clearing really, really fast, then you're not going to take as much damage, so you don't need as much sustain. And also on top of that, if you're going to have a good jungler, then they need to have good objective capabilities. Specifically like that, ganking is a decent example, though not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to have good ganking in order to be a good jungler. Shyvana is a great example of someone who doesn't really have anything in her kit that makes her anything special when it comes to ganking, but she's still a fairly decent jungler. So if Yorick can like do things like push minion waves down, hold minion waves, or like push down towers specifically, or is really good at securing Dragon or Baron or the Rift Herald or something like that, or invading, those kind of things, then those are the things that make good junglers. There are champions that seem on paper like they can do a few of these things, like Renekton, for example. He's got a gap closer, got a stun, got sustain as well, got AoE damage, got single target damage, got an auto attack reset. He's on paper, he's got it all, but it doesn't really work in practice. And let's have a look and see what Yorick can do. in theory as well. So let's break down his abilities to see how they will influence him as a jungler. His passive, I don't really think is going to have, you know, any impact on him jungling at all, just because by itself it summons graves when little minions die around you. You're going to be moving in between camps so much that I don't really think that you're going to be standing around graves too much, which is going to influence how your Q works as well, because I don't really think you're going to be able to utilize the ghosts when you're clearing the jungle. You may as well just forget the idea that ghosts are going to be able to accompany you to help you clear, because like there's only one camp in the game that has enough like potential graves around for you to kill enough monsters to have enough graves for you to then summon the ghosts and then keep clearing, i.e. Specifically obviously the chicken camp. And it says here as well that the ghosts just run down lanes. I don't even know if they're going to fight jungle monsters. They don't follow you around, that's for sure. So just forget the idea of having ghosts. Now that in itself is a pretty big like knockdown, I think, on Yorick as a jungler, because I think he's kind of obviously balanced around having these ghosts. But he still might work, mostly because this Q, I think, the on-hit damage, we need to see the numbers for this to really say for sure, but this has the potential to be a really, really strong clearing tool. Like, so strong that by itself it can like carry you as a jungler. Somewhat similar to Trundle, where his only real clearing ability is his Q, but it's such a good ability that it actually means that he can jungle. He's not the best jungler obviously, but he can certainly jungle. Specifically, we need to know how long the cooldown is, so whether you can kind of spam it when you're clearing, obviously in mana costs as well, but also whether or not it's an auto attack reset, because that will help you a little bit as well. A bit of a minor thing, but it still helps. And also how much it heals you for. If it heals you for a decent amount, then that's going to be absolutely busted. If that heals you for a decent amount and you can spam it and it also gives you decent damage, that is going to be really good. Like by itself that could carry you as a jungler. So need to see the numbers on that, but that looks kind of promising. Even if it's not amazing, it's still going to be decent enough to the extent where as your bread and butter ability it will really help you. Now your W obviously isn't going to help you when you're clearing, but it might be good in theory as a gank tool, although having said that, it looks kind of good in theory, but on paper it might be a little bit weak, because I would compare this like just with, you know, like the radius of it, what it kind of achieves, the fact that it just keeps someone in place, and the time it takes for it to like activate. I would compare that a bit like a Cho'Gath Q, just as far as like what it brings to the table for ganking. And Cho'Gath Q isn't really that good. It's like lackluster. It's okay, but it's not spectacular. It can work. It can certainly help, especially if you've got something to team it up with. Like if your laner has the CC and you can just like chuck that on them afterwards. But also, you know, if someone's got a gap closer, then this ability is pretty useless. And in League nowadays, pretty much everyone has a gap closer. But, you know, I think that's, you know, it's okay, but I don't know. It might not really be that good, honestly. No, your E seems, like I said before, it seems a bit like a Twitch W. You throw it out. If it hits someone, then it's going to slow them. You're going to run faster towards them. That actually seems kind of good. The range, the fact that your projectile is a bit slow, the range that you can throw it out from isn't that far either. Don't really think it's going to be like a deal breaker, but it's something that really like it enables you to gank better. You know, if you are going to try and make those plays, if you are going to try and gank, and I think that it's something that. It's actually not that bad, honestly. Like I would put it in a similar level as your W, as far as how useful it is when it comes to ganking. Again, it's going to be good if you can like combo it with your laner, if they can help you to like set up a plane and you can just throw your E on them. But you know, by itself, nothing special. Still, every little helps, of course. And now coming down to your ultimate as well. Now, I think this ability, this isn't going to be like someone, you know, like Vi or Lee Sin or Nocturne or Rengar who hits level 6 and holy shit, they're so good at ganking. I think this is going to be an ability which gives you more damage, obviously. It's something that's going to help you to kind of kill someone. But I don't really think it offers you too much, honestly. Like I think this is like not an amazing ultimate for jungling. You're obviously not going to use it to clear, so you're only going to use it for when you're ganking. Obviously not talking about, you know, like team fights and stuff, but that doesn't really pertain to him as a jungler specifically. That's just Yorick as a champion, right? So I think like it's okay, honestly. It's not too bad, but it depends like how much damage that your this NPC can actually do, this Maiden of the Mist. Does she run really slowly? Is it really hard for her to catch up onto people? Is she not going to be dealing that much damage, so therefore you can't get that much damage off as well? The thing is about with this ultimate is that it's not a huge amount of burst damage by itself, and it needs a lot of follow-up for it to be useful, because obviously I think a lot of the damage in your ultimate comes through whether or not you hit a target that is being attacked by this Maiden of the Mist, you know, so you still need to be able to get in there to do some stuff with it. It's not like something that's just going to give you a free wing gank like, you know, Vi, all that kind of stuff. So that's the ability breakdown. I think by itself, you know, it heavily depends on how this Q is going to work. But overall, outside of that, talking about his role, he seems like he's going to be one of these tanky bruisers, which, you know, he doesn't really seem to have a lot of overloaded. Like his kit isn't too overloaded as far as like CC goes, so he's unlikely to be able to just be like a pure tank. Someone like Echo, for example, or Rek'Sai. You know, these champions just bring a lot to the table that they don't need anything but to be full tank. I think this guy's going to need a little bit more, which, you know, not necessarily too bad. Like someone who's a bruiser, they can still work in the jungle, so that's not too bad by itself. But anyway, talking overall as a jungler, now just to wrap this all up now, I don't want to talk for too long. Overall, what do I think about this guy as a jungler? I actually think that this guy has potential. I'm going to be doing a gameplay for him for sure when he gets released on the PBE, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That's going to be coming out soon, whenever he gets up on the PBE. I think he has definitely got potential, and I think that it really all comes down to how this Q can be used. I honestly don't think he's going to be a top tier jungler. It's impossible to say for 100%, obviously, just because we don't have the numbers here. But I don't think he's designed as a jungler. The fact that he's got all these like NPCs, like these little ghosts, this Maiden of the Mist, not going to be useful for him as a jungler either. That kind of limits him. But I think he's going to be someone, I predict he'll be someone who isn't designed as a jungler, isn't a top tier jungler, isn't someone you'll be picking in ranked as a jungler, but someone who, if you really wanted to jungle with them, you could certainly do it. That's my prediction for Yorick as a jungler. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to be doing the gameplay. Keep your eyes peeled on that. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for educational league content. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All those links are down below in the description, boys and girls, but thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great, wonderful, amazing day, and I will see you in my next video.